how out of place I looked in this luxurious establishment. I was well aware that my small entourage and I were quickly becoming the center of attention as we made our way between tables occupied by rather wealthy patrons. In fact, I almost ran away, and not because the police could show up at any moment. I knew their attention would be elsewhere, but I really wanted to sit down at a table before they noticed I was even in the restaurant. Luckily for me, the waiter brought another bottle of champagne and stood in such a way that he blocked my view. When the waiter moved away from the table, I deftly took his place, and the patrons, sensing a change, looked at me in surprise. No, not surprise. More shock, I would say. In fact, Jenny looked more confused. But her boss, Herbert Henderson, experienced fear, perhaps? After all, the husband of the woman with whom he had planned to spend the evening was suddenly towering over him. Perhaps before I continue, I should explain that my small, at least in number, entourage was not there to assist me in my business that evening. They were there solely to ensure that no one interfered. My victim was in the hotel restaurant and, theoretically, surrounded by his colleagues and/or so-called friends. I had no idea which of them might come to his aid, so I didn't take any chances. I leaned over, picked up Henderson's full glass of champagne from the table, and raised it as if offering a toast. "To this asshole and the stupid married bitch he was going to sleep with tonight," I said as loudly as I could without shouting. There was no need to shout because my appearance in the large hall, and, as I said, my impressive entourage, had silenced the entire establishment. Not even the clinking of spoons against cups or the tapping of knives and forks against plates could be heard. And of course, all eyes were on us, or rather, on me. I didn't drink Henderson's champagne, but slowly poured it over his head. He jumped to his feet. You would have thought he was about to pounce on me, but I didn't give him a chance. I'm left-handed, and to be honest, I don't think Henderson realized I was going to hit him when my fist crushed his jaw. But damn, I knew exactly when my fist hit its target. Damn, I think I felt the bones in my hand break, but I was sure the crack I heard was the sound of Henderson's jaw breaking. This fact was later kindly confirmed to me by the police officer who eventually charged me. But life is always full of ups and downs, isn't it? My wife's face was full of amazement, but when she saw her boss collapse on the floor in a terrible state, she quickly came to her senses. "You bastard, you hit him!" Jenny said, jumping up from her seat. "Yes, I did, didn't I?" I smiled back at her. "What did you think I was going to do, kiss that bastard?" "No, honey, that's your job, remember?" "But why?" she asked. "Because he was going to sleep with my wife tonight, that's why, and I don't like being cuckolded. God, I hate that word, not to mention that someone could use it to describe me." "Are you out of your mind? We just stopped in for dinner after practice, that's all. There's nothing going on between me and Herbert. We were celebrating a successful day, and then Herbert was going to drive me home." "Oh, so you weren't going to sleep with him tonight?" "No, damn it, I wasn't." "What about the message you sent saying you'd be late?" "God, Pete. The seminar went so well that it ran late, and then we got into a discussion." "At the bar?" I interrupted. "Yes, at the bar. The manager of our northern office wants me to go there and organize a seminar for them. Herbert had to finish up a few things with a couple of our colleagues before he would agree to let me go to the northern office for a couple of weeks, so we continued our discussion at the bar. Continued? Okay, it was long, but it was just work. Anyway, we ended up staying longer than I expected, so I sent you a message so you wouldn't worry. The entire time we were talking, Henderson was lying on the floor. He wasn't unconscious. I was sure of that. I'm certain he was pretending to be dead. I found it very strange that none of his friends or colleagues rushed to give Henderson first aid, let alone physical support. Everyone just sat there listening to Jenny and me. Of course, you have to remember that I was with my friends, and they weren't chosen because they looked harmless. Perhaps people decided that it was wiser not to get involved at that moment. So old Herbert was going to drive you home after dinner? Yes. And then what was he going to do, come back here to spend the night? Don't be silly, he was going home to his wife. Why would Herbert come back here? I don't know, dear, but I assume that was his intention. Otherwise, why would he sneak out of the bar and book a room for the night? While you were sitting there drinking those big vodka Bloody Marys he was pouring you, by the way. Are you saying that Herbert slipped something into my drinks tonight? Of course, baby, and not just anyone, but that bastard who's lying there and booked the room earlier. How do you know that? I have friends in low places, Jenny. Excuse me? Employees of this hotel, woman. If you'd bothered to look at them properly, you'd have noticed that some of them are members of the rugby club. But you've always looked down on this place, haven't you? You only come here with me a couple of times a year, and that's only because I insist. At that moment, the hotel manager finally plucked up the courage to approach me. Perhaps he decided that the incident was dragging on, or maybe he realized that the police had been called. Mr. Greenway, I must ask you to leave the hotel. Of course, Doug, I replied. Sorry for the trouble and the mess. Then I turned and nodded to the guys to start backing off. Although none of Henderson's friends had intervened, there was a chance that one of them might decide to take advantage of my departure. So we had planned a coordinated retreat in advance. I had only taken a couple of steps when Jenny called out to me, "Wait a minute!" I turned just in time to see my wife dig the sharp heel of her shoe into Henderson's rear end. "Consider yourself fired!" she shouted, then limped over to me and grabbed my arm. "Let's get out of here." "Are you okay? You're limping," I asked when we reached the door. "Damn high heels. They're uncomfortable to walk in, and when you need to kick someone, they're useless. I should have borrowed your boots before I kicked that bastard, but they look so good on your feet." "I hope so. I wouldn't want to go through that pain for nothing. How's your hand?" I must have flinched because Jenny ran her hand over mine to take my arm. "I think I broke something." "Poor thing, why didn't you hit him with the champagne bottle? I would have if he'd come at me." "If you only knew what happened, Jenny. He secretly poured you a few shots of vodka, you know." "Damn, big shots?" "Yeah, triple shots, I think." "Damn, another half hour and I would have passed out. You know how vodka affects me." "Yes, and apparently Henderson knows too." "Damn, it must have been at last Christmas party. There was vodka in that damn punch they served. It hit me like a brick. As if I didn't know. We were dancing when you fell down. I had to drag you to the car, remember? And make up all those damn excuses for those stuck-up jerks you work with." "That bastard probably figured it out. Did he get a good number?" "No, just the regular one." "Stingy bastard!" "Hey, I thought I was the bastard today." "Well, you are a bastard, but in your case, it's an accident that everyone knows about. Henderson had to work hard to get where he is. That's probably why no one came to his aid today. He's not very popular in the office, you know?" "I never liked that bastard, you know that. And you also know that I didn't approve of your working for him." "Well, now I don't approve either, and my leg hurts to prove it," giggled Jenny, who was clearly starting to feel the effects of the vodka. When we left the building, a police car was pulling up to the scene. But the two officers, surrounded by a noisy crowd of apparently drunk rugby club players and their female companions, who distracted me, didn't have time to enter the hotel and find out what had happened before I put Jenny in our car and drove away quickly. I figured I had about an hour before the police arrived to arrest me to get Jenny home and put her to bed. Hey, I'm a realist. I knew how this was going to end. And in the short time I had to prepare, I did everything I needed to do. Jenny was still mumbling incoherent words when she collapsed in the car. Only her seatbelt kept her in a sitting position that could be mistaken for standing. As I carried Jenny into the house and into our room, I realized that I would have to go to the hospital myself later. The numb pain in my left arm turned into agony as I dragged Jenny upstairs, laid her on our bed, and made her as comfortable as possible. I knew from experience that she would be unconscious until at least lunchtime the next day and then wake up with a terrible hangover. Strangely enough, I was looking forward to the police arriving and arresting me. Jenny with a hangover is not the best person in the world. I knew this from previous experience. We had been married for 7 years by then. About half an hour later, 2 police officers knocked on the door and said I had to go with them to the police station to help them investigate an incident that had occurred earlier that evening at the Royal Grand Hotel. I invited them in and led them to the bedroom, where I pointed to my wife lying unconscious on the bed. "I'm sorry, guys, but I can't leave her like this. Anything could happen to her. I'll go to the station myself tomorrow morning when she wakes up, although I suspect it will be closer to noon." "What happened? Did she drink more than she could handle?" "No, some bastard slipped something into her drink. My wife can hold her liquor, sometimes too well, but for some reason her body can't handle vodka." "So you're saying someone decided to take revenge tonight?" "You could say that, officer. But I'm not going to name the person yet because I never liked the bastard who got beaten up." "I'm sorry, sir, but we still have to arrest you. It looks like someone's jaw was broken tonight." "So is my hand. Look." By that time, my hand had swollen to almost twice its normal size. "To hell with the police. We'd better take you to the hospital to get that looked at," said one of the policemen. "I'm sorry, guys, but I can't leave Jenny in this condition, at least not until the cavalry arrives to take care of her. To be honest, I didn't expect you to arrive any sooner than an hour. How did you find me so quickly?" "The cameras on Main Street caught your license plate number as you were leaving. You shouldn't have parked at the bus stop. If you hadn't, they probably wouldn't have paid any attention to you or your car." I was about to say, "You can't guess everything," when 4 guys from the rugby club, along with their girlfriends, entered, or rather, burst through the front door. The girls rushed upstairs to see how Jenny was doing. 3 of the guys headed for the living room, opening some cans. The 4th guy, who looked very unsteady on his feet, stopped at the foot of the stairs and shouted, "Not a word, my friend." I think he was too drunk to climb the stairs on his own. Freed from my lady duties, I waved the 2 policemen ahead, and we went downstairs, where we were met by my slightly unsteady friend from the club. I'm afraid the guys had already started the party before I got the urgent call from one of the hotel staff. And it all began. "We'd better take you to the hospital to have your hand checked out," suggested one of the policemen. "You're not going anywhere without me," said my somewhat drunk but still quite sane friend. "Who are you?" the police officers asked. "I'm a legal advisor and representative for Mr. Greenway," replied the clearly intoxicated man. "We haven't arrested him yet," replied another police officer. "Besides, you look like you've been out on the town tonight." "More than I should have, officer," he replied, adding by way of explanation, "Little Lady Billy gave birth to his twins tonight." Although I highly doubted that the police officers knew who Billy was, unless they were fans of the local amateur rugby club. "Besides, I just have to make sure that stupid idiot doesn't say anything on tape. Our Pete is too honest for his own good." The 2 policemen looked at each other for a few seconds. Then one of them said, "Listen, Peter, if we take you to the hospital to have your arm checked out, will you come to the station in the morning?" "I told you I would, didn't I, officer?" "All right, let's do that. I don't see any point in questioning you about what happened tonight, especially considering that your lawyer won't let you say anything because he—" The police officer didn't finish his sentence, but simply added, "Let's go," and led him to the patrol car. I was indeed charged. At first it was assault, but then it was dropped and replaced with battery. However, in the end, during the trial, that charge was also dropped due to conflicting witness statements. Although everyone agreed that Henderson did indeed have a broken jaw and was covered in champagne from the glass I had been holding in my hand moments before, there were conflicting accounts of how it happened. Several of Henderson's friends claimed that I poured champagne on his head and then hit him. Meanwhile, the vast majority of witnesses stated that when I approached the table, Henderson attempted to headbutt me as he stood up, spilling the glass of champagne I was holding over him. They also claimed that my punch appeared to be more of an instinctive defensive reaction on my part than a planned physical attack on Henderson. Yes, and by some convenient coincidence, all the security cameras in the restaurant that evening were apparently not working. Or at least, no recordings were found. But I suspect you won't be surprised to hear that. Although Jenny quit, we heard that Henderson was fired. Fired, in our language. These days, no company wants to risk a sexual harassment case. Her former employers were extremely generous to Jenny, paying her severance pay. Yes, severance pay, that's news to me too, but I don't move in those circles. Jenny found another job very quickly. Would you believe it, at the Royal Grand Hotel? Jenny had worked with the hotel management many times, organizing seminars for her employer. They were looking for someone to coordinate event room bookings, liaise with clients about these events, and even help clients with their planning. Jenny's experience was perfect for the job. And yes, she does give our rugby club a discount when we host big parties there. Jenny doesn't mind dropping by the club sometimes. Some of the guys even work for her. However, she still refuses to watch me on the field because she's always afraid I'll get injured. Life goes on.